events that we do. And then also engaging with members of parliament. One of the things that we found out is that a lot of members of parliament are doing a great job when it comes to issues of climate, but that is very invisible. A journalist meeting a member of parliament, what comes into our mind is the political undertones and overtones. I think somebody was talking of 1, 2. But then we realized that some members of parliament are really going out there to do a great job. And so when we did the literature review, some of the findings were that many journalists report from events. And that to us is something that is a worry. And so the other issue that we got was that political and economic responsibility narratives feature prominently at the expense of grassroots adaptation and citizen-led initiatives. And that is where solutions journalism comes in. Then the other bit that we also looked at is that stories spotlight the lived experiences of vulnerable populations such as farmers dealing with the drought. And I must say that most of the climate stories that are being told are about agriculture. So that is also something that we also need to be on the lookout for, that there are a lot of solutions that we have in various spectrums and various sectors that need to be covered. And then solution-oriented frames tend to enhance engagement and perceived efficacy, whereas catastrophic or fatalistic narratives can induce denial or apathy. This week, 2 things are trending. One of them is what happened in Nepal, and the other one is the death of Dolly Parton. So what are we talking about? During this time, a lot of good things are also happening, but we are not giving them the airtime that they really deserve. So what we are looking at is that we need to increase coverage of climate change issues in Africa from a solutions point of view and enhancing inclusivity. Inclusivity here would mean that when we are doing solutions climate stories, we are not just covering them without looking at other facets. For example, the issues of gender, the issues of looking at the solutions that really work, like Caro talked about the 4 pillars. And out of our work with journalists, some of the things that they have told us is that Africa has the answers. Local knowledge and community solutions must lead climate coverage. Last week we had one of the science cafes where one of the scientists said that—
5 minutes.
Thank you. One of the scientists said that he really relies on the stories that journalists write on climate to do a lot of concepts. And that is how he gets his funding. That in itself was really touchy for us. And when the journalists are saying that Africa has the answers, local knowledge and community solutions must lead climate coverage, that makes a lot of sense to us. It speaks to us. Then a Tanzanian who has been also, a Tanzanian journalist who has also been participating in the project said, solutions matter, not crisis. There's need to document community-driven climate solutions that can be replicated elsewhere. Having listened to that, what then came into our mind was that can we get a partner who can then help us to take this conversation to the next level? And that is how we came into contact with Solutions Journalism Network, where we are now working on various issues. And one of the issues that we are working on is to initiate what we call Climate Beacons Newsroom Initiative. Now, in this initiative, we are going to work directly with newsrooms from Africa, English-speaking Africa, all the way from, Nigeria to South Africa. The selection is ongoing, and I think in the next 1 week or so, we'll let you know which newsrooms are we going to to work with. Now, the initiative seeks to improve journalists' climate reporting skills, improve public engagement with climate information, encourage collaboration among newsrooms. One of the things that we realized when we were doing some of the interviews is that the newsrooms would not want to work with each other. And so what we are saying is that for us to effectively tell climate solutions stories, the newsrooms must work together. And that is one of the things that we are going actually to emphasize on. But then there's also need to inject transformational thinking in the newsrooms, that when we are talking about solutions, then basically we are, I think somebody was talking about transformation earlier on in the morning, that we really need to transform the way we do business. And if we do that, then basically there's going to be an attitude change in the newsrooms, as well as sustained impactful storytelling on climate solutions. we cannot do away with the traditional media, even though the social media, is trending and what have you. But the role of that journalist, that well-trained journalist, is something that we really appreciate and that we recognize. And for that matter, we say that we still need to, encourage newsrooms to talk about solutions journalism, do solutions journalism, even beyond the support. We hope that things are going to work with them. Now, how then do we do it, apart from the meetings? The Media for Environment, Science, Health and Agriculture, MESHA, which has a very large footprint in Africa, produces this magazine. Or can you go to the last slide, please, the second last slide? This magazine, it is called Sayansi. I'm told that there are people who don't understand Swahili here. Sayansi is a Kiswahili word for science. And so if you Google Sayansi magazine, then you will find lots and lots of them. I think we've done around 47, 48 editions. And this particular magazine is just on science. I think I would end there by saying that the future for solutions journalism is very bright, and that all of us, and I'm happy I saw some hands that are already in it, that all of us need to give it visibility. We need to think about how do we work together, how do we work together with MESHA, and how then do we work with SGN in the long run when some of these projects come to an end. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Just take this. Done. Mr. Gunn, take this one. So we have now heard from the program point of view from Solutions Journalism Network, the organization that initiated this. We have also heard from the practitioners, the umbrella organization of journalists. We now want to hear from the academy. And I have Dr. Wagunda, who is going to, from Rongo University, who is going to tell us what they do, how they do it, how their curricula look like for this particular solutions journalism. So I hope that is up there. Excuse me. Put the... Okay, so Dr. Charles Wagunda is a communication expert and the program coordinator for communication and media studies at Rongo University here in Kenya. He holds a PhD in communication studies and his expertise spans media literacy, peace, and health communication. He's an accredited trainer with the Media Council of Kenya, that is the regulatory body for media in Kenya. Dr. Wagunda is interested in solutions journalism through his work with the Solutions Journalism Network. He regularly contributes opinion pieces and commentaries to Kenyan national newspapers and on social issues. His current research examines AI integration in journalism and strategies to combat misinformation. Recently certified in fact-checking by Code for Africa, he will tell us more about that. He remains a leading researcher in Kenyan media representation and ethical reporting. Dr. Wagunda will talk to us about pedagogical approaches to training the next generation of climate solutions journalism. Because what we are interested in is to see the academies also producing journalists who are solutions journalism ready, so that they can be able to join MESHA and can be able to serve community like St. Paul says, so that you serve community in the best way possible. And if the academies, the various schools of journalism that are here are interested, then this is the team that you can also talk to be able to see if you are interested in this program and implement it. And that includes St. Paul's as well. So thank you very much, Charles.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. I'm glad to be here this morning to join the honorable delegates who are drawn from various parts of the world as a testimony of what works in terms of the variables of solutions journalism. We were lucky to have met this network at the point at which we were doing our curriculum overhaul. And when we were roped into the program or into the network, we had several workshops where we were inducted and got to know what SOJO was all about. And therefore this morning, briefly, I just want to give a phenomenological approach or an explanation or a journey that we have taken as an institution to show that SOJO actually works. Take us to slide number 3, where there is the problem. I want to skip others. Now, having heard from our compatriots about the problem of reporting, the traditional approach which focuses on crisis, we have realized that there are 3 gaps. And if you look at the third one, that is where we come in, a skills gap. And this morning, I should like to invite you to join me in looking at the classroom as a critical intervention to climate solutions or to issues related to climate change. Why do I say so? The policies or the stories about the impact of climate change need to be told. And where does it begin? It begins from training. As media trainers, we have a role and a duty to ensure that the next generation of storytellers or journalists are equipped to be able to do research, to be able to extract data, to be able to involve communities around them and show what works so that that can be replicated elsewhere or in other communities. So having realized that problem, what did we do? Next slide. We, the previous one. We did have a curriculum overhaul. And what we did is, like you have heard from our friends from Maseno, we introduced a standalone solutions journalism course, which practically looks at the 4 pillars and explaining to students what SOJO is and what SOJO is not. But we realized, just like our compatriot Mr. Agana said, that there are many strands where SOJO can be incorporated. And therefore, we have had to have the SOJO concept infused in many other courses. For instance, we have data journalism. If you realized, the second pillar was talking about evidence, and that is data. So then we have a course on data journalism. We have a course on health, on environmental communication. We also have a course on gender and communication. And we always strive to guide students to be able to infuse the solutions angle as they do that. And then what we also did is to make the courses practical. One of the things that we have done, we have moved away from exams written, the theoretical exams. We encourage our students to give a product, and therefore about 80% of our courses at the moment are practical oriented. And what we have, the next slide, you will see that our students, for example, just have a few cases there, have been able to produce SOJO-related stories in the mainstream media. Of course, it is a journey. They may not be perfect stories, but they have inclinations. They take angles that point to what works in the community. Next slide also has others. I just took a few. So one thing that we have noted is that when students write stories that are SOJO-oriented, they easily get picked up by the media without them knowing that those are SOJO. We don't tell them it is SOJO, but we use the pillars. And our students have been so excited to the extent that I'm sure in Kenya, Rongo University is one institution where I don't think a week passes without seeing 1 or 2 students from our institution writing a story, and that thanks to the SOJO approach to writing stories. And if you went to the Daily Nation, the Star or the Standard, and just Googled Rongo University, you'll see many of our stories there. And because of the approach, many of our students have been noticed by the media. Last year alone, I think, whereas many institutions are talking about unemployment and the like, I saw 5 of our students being absorbed before they graduated. One, a regional correspondent in Kisumu, another one currently at Nation Media, another one Citizen, and we have, therefore, an excitement amongst our students, so to say. And to help us to implement that practical angle, we have a Writers Club. I know the patron of the Writers Club is here with us today. I'm seeing her in the audience. And thanks to her and her club, we have had a very good run. Next slide. Therefore, why does this matter? It matters because, thank you. It matters because the practical-oriented approach, the training of journalists who are able to use evidence, who are able to use the responses, who are able to show the limitations, that next level of journalists are being trained now. And like the first speaker talked about the SALT, it is important that as we think about reimagining communication, it is true, and I can testify that solutions journalism is one approach, is a concept that can be used to reimagine and to make the taste of communication tastier. And I can vouch that as we move forward towards reimagining this process, Sojo will take center stage, and Rongo University is here to say that it works. Thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you. A round of applause. So thank you for also saving us time. We have now about 30 minutes to ask questions. They have talked about the project itself, the program itself, and how it started from Solutions Journalism Network, how Measure and the Membership Association of Measure, with over 100 journalists that are practicing, picking up this, and they are also publishing on their own. We have also heard what university is doing, and I want to add that we also have, we have worked closely with the Makerere University to introduce solutions journalism. We have worked with Maseno University, we have worked with Kibabi University, we have worked with Moi University, those are in Kenya, and also the University of Rwanda, and most of them I think are represented here. So, sorry.
Thank you very much. Can we clap for our panelists, please? I want to ask Dr. Njuki Chege to come and lead us in the question and answer, the discussion, thinking through what you heard, helping us understand the trends, helping us summarize the session, and then understanding the trends. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaiko. Good morning, everyone. Are we well this morning? Can I stand here? Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists. It's been a wonderful morning of discussing solutions journalism, which challenges all of us to think differently about climate change reporting in East Africa. It doesn't just interrogate what has gone wrong, but also asks the question, what is the solution, who is responding, and what evidence exists that that response is actually working. What falls short, and what can we learn from it? And so the question today, I believe our panelists have answered, is that how do we apply the application, the practicability of it? How do we apply solutions journalism to improve the impact of climate change media coverage in Africa? And so, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard from the different points of this chain. We have heard from the training of journalists, the newsrooms particularly, and also the organizing of science journalists, and the interface between research and media. And my favorite, we have heard from the classroom. That is the crucible in which the next generation of science journalists are molded and refined. And now I want to turn to the audience and invite you to ask specific targeted questions to our panelists. And so who wants to kick us off? Okay, thank you so much. The gentleman at the corner over there. Noted. Noted. Thank you. Can we have somebody send him a mic very quickly? There's only one mic. Maybe we can. All right. So maybe you can project your voice. Excellent.
Okay. To again, we have two SDGs that are very connected. That is SDG 7 and SDG 13 on climate action, and the other one is on energy. Now, when it comes to journalism and the solution that they ought to present, I've been in communities whereby I've seen some corporates and some organizations taking advantage of the ignorance of the community as far as issues to deal with carbon credits are concerned. Carbon sequestration, for example, when they do the forests and there's sequestration, the amount of money that these organizations are making does not trickle down to the community. And the community, most of the time, they seem not to be aware. So I don't know how your organization is tackling such an awareness gap to the community, because we can debate here as academics, but at the end of the day, how are we solving the problem at the grassroots? So basically, if you could shed light on how your organization is dealing with that.
Morning. Thank you, and I would commend the great work that you are doing, especially with regard with the network and all that. Now, my question will be on how do I call this? Africanizing climate change reporting, and because when you look at most of the funding for climate change works, including climate change journalism. Actually, my PhD was on climate change communication. You find that it all, in most cases, actually maybe 80%, 90% comes from the West. And that's why we'll be actually be debating so much on what we call the inequalities of climate change in the world, whereby we get dictated whether we should actually deal with adaptation, or at this point we should deal with mitigation. At this point we should deal with indigenous knowledge and all that. Now, I would ask, how do you put this into your agenda, the Africanizing of climate change, in the sense that how do we make African countries, African governments, to actually create their own resources, their own fund to fund climate change, including solution journalism that is actually more of a climate change solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name's Rudolf Kabutz. I'm with TWR Africa and the Lausanne movement. I appreciate the solutions journalism and understand these are stories that are gathered to communicate out through the media. My question is, how would you involve the younger generation in being in conversations about these articles or these messages that are going out in the media, so that this is not just a report that is actually going at the community, but this is that the report becomes a conversation starter to engage people in thinking and wrestling with it, so that it's not a finished solution, but that it prompts people to think critically about how they can be doing this and wrestling further one another. I'd love to hear how you would see this involving the conversations beyond the article in helping to think deeper and wider beyond what is being reported. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Wandema has a question.
A simple one, which is to the gentleman who talked about climate change. We are told there will be El Nino coming. How do we mobilize our media houses to communicate that, so that we don't wait until floods come and now we are reporting the damage that is caused? Thank you.
Excellent. So, do we have more questions? Yes. Do we want to take those 4 questions first? Please hold, and then we are going to come that side. Okay. So, over to you. Yes. You can have the podium. Thank you.
Yeah, I will start with the second last question. I think what you're basically talking about in terms of how do we ensure that we reach the communities with the messages. Now, one of the things that we are looking at is community listening groups. And that is one thing that a lot of media houses are doing. I know in Kenya you see a lot of road shows. The only dramatic part, only the dramatic parts are shown, but there's a lot of engagement with the communities. And one of the things that we are also looking at when we are supporting the media houses or the newsrooms that we've just talked about is how do you go beyond publishing the story? But again, you also must understand that we are journalists. So as journalists, our work is to go out, collect, come, and publish. After that, what happens is now we try to trace what is called impact. But that is also a very new thing that is happening in the media houses. And so the issue of tracing impact is one thing that we are taking very seriously in this course and in the engagements. Yes, I want to talk about the carbon credit issue. It is not just carbon credit issue again. In my presentation, I alluded to the fact that many of the climate change engagements, many of the climate change stories are basic agriculture. You know, the farmer, the floods, and what have you. So how then do we take the conversation beyond that? Carbon credit is least understood, not just by the communities, but is also least understood by the media. So that's an opportunity for us to look at what is it that we can do. I talked about the science cafes that we hold every month, and these are opportunities that we can use to reach out even to the communities. I think yesterday we had one where we brought somebody from the community speak about what they do, though it was in farming, but I also think that we also need to get those voices. One of the gaps that we have identified is who is there to help tell the story, because journalists want to tell the story, but where are the voices, where are the experts? I saw in one of our WhatsApp groups yesterday somebody desperately looking for somebody who works in the energy sector. So again, that conversation, we must now go back to what we used to call crowdsourcing. The crowds must come back to us and tell us. And I see a lot of things on social media, but as you know, the issues of believability of social media things is also something that is really working against some of the things that we really think are serious. If you met it on social media, you'll not take it so much serious as when you met it elsewhere, when you meet it elsewhere. But I think that even that perception is changing. The issue of the youth, I think, comes from what Dr. Charles spoke about, that we start talking, engaging with the journalists when they are still young in college, so that, they can start picking it up from college. We realize that many journalists start, interacting with the serious issues once they are out of college, and that is something that we're dismantling. Caro has alluded to the fact that I think, and Daniel, that they have worked with a lot of universities, in the past, and we hope that those are seeds that are planted and they germinated, and that the universities are busy watering them. Africanizing climate change. I think that's a question that every one of us here should ask, and every one of us here should participate in. One of the things, and this is personal opinion, I'm afraid I'm wrong, maybe I am right, but look at it this way, that there's a group also that is called the African Group of Negotiators, those of you who are in the space of climate change, but who is funding them? Sometimes you negotiate with the very person who is funding you. Sometimes you are in the plane going to wherever you are going for the the discussions and the negotiations, but it's the very person that is funding you. So long as Africa is still saying that climate change is caused elsewhere and it impacts here, then you basically know the direction of funding and what we are going to do. And so and again, I didn't want to PR measure so much, but one of the things that we've done in the past is to ensure that we empower the common man to understand science, because you only demand for what you understand. And that is the biggest, I would say, elephant in the house. And so the agenda, we have to set the agenda, and the agenda is science, science, science. I hope that CBC, it's called CBC or CBE in this country, is also helping our cause. I just don't know how much, we are involved in that space of conversation. Now, the other thing that I would also want to say is mobilization of the media. I usually say that,
5 minutes.
All right, to them that much is given, much is expected. Yeah. To them that little is given, little is expected. The organizations that are here, how much do you